Three, two, one, go. Okay, so today we're going to be learning, well, I'm going to teach you about how manual transmission works. Now, there's three basic shafts into manual transmission. This is the input shaft right here. This part is connected to the clutch, where the clutch will get the power from the flywheel and the engine, and it'll make the transmission move. This right here is the output shaft. Now this is connected to either your axle shaft or your drive shaft, depending on what setup you got. And this shaft right here is your counter shaft. Now this is where it's the weights and the ratios all change, etc. So we start with this one right here. You got three yokes here. They're supposed to be aligned. You'd have a setup like this. Now your gearbox would be sitting here. On top of this, and you have your shifter here. Now this transmission is in neutral right now. So in neutral, your gear stick is going to be able to move side to side, and it's going to be able to move forward and backwards, etc. Because you do have a pivot gear. And so let's say for first gear, if the driver's sitting right here, he would move this way and push forward. For a push forward, meaning it's going to pivot out this way. The shift's going to pivot out this way and move forward, making this thing move back. That would be your first gear. Now, from first gear, when you're getting the input, it goes from the small gear to the counter shaft, and from the counter shaft, the smallest gear, and from the smallest gear, it moves up to the highest gear, giving you high torque. And that would be your first gear. So from the first gear, you would come back to neutral first. So in that case, if you had this yoke here, when it come into neutral, this would move back. This would move back to neutral. Now it's neutral again, and again with the yoke assembly right here. With the second gear, it would still swing this side, and you would push back for second, making this go forward, and this would slide up to right there. That would be your second gear. So once you get your input, this gear goes again to here. From here it goes to this gear, and from here it goes up here, giving you a different output and a higher speed. Now, from here, you would go back to neutral, making this push back again. Right here, you're back to neutral. Now this yoke goes out. This yoke is in no use anymore, because now you move on to this yoke, which would be sitting here, connected like this. Now you come back to the middle. The pivot would turn into the center, and then for a third gear, you would push forward, making this come back like that, and the gear would change, the speed would change, etc. The input coming from in here, back here, from here to up here. The counter shaft having the higher gear, etc. And then from here, again, it's from the shift sitting right here. You would push back, making this move forward like that. Making you go into the fourth gear with a higher speed. Now with the fifth gear, it's completely different, because now it's going to shift back to neutral, going. It's going to slide back. Come on. There we go. Back in neutral. This goes from the fifth gear. The gear is going to slide to the side, having connected to this yoke, the third yoke, and for the fifth gear, you would move up, pushing this back, engaging this gear. This gear, giving you a higher speed, because it's from here it goes back down here, and from here it's down here, and then from here it's back up here, making it 1-to-1 ratio, giving you, well, at least close to 1-to-1 ratio, giving you a very high output again. Now from here you would go into reverse, Reverse would be the same thing. From here, you would go back to the normal side, which would be neutral again, and that would be. There we go. We're back to neutral, and now for reverse gear, you would push, or you would bring the stick back. You would bring the shifting stick back, pushing that gear down there, as you can see, that gear down there, pushing this gear like that. Now, before I do that, the counter shaft's gear, this gear right here, is not connected to this gear. So as you can see, they're not connected at all. But once you put it into the reverse, that gear will connect to this one, making it shift this way, and the output and the input would be different. So let's say if you were going clockwise from the input shaft, that would change the gears, make it into a opposite-sided output, making it go into reverse. And that's basically how the gears transmission work. And now as you see this part right here, they're called the synchronizers, the brass synchronizers. They're shaped this way, so it makes it easier for the gears to mesh together. Now, you want that because once you're driving at 60, 70, 80 kilometers an hour on the highway or something, and the reason is because your transmission wouldn't stop moving to actually get the gears to move or something like that. So these synchronizers are there to make the meshing easier, because the shape like that, it would, let's see here, it would connect it'd be spinning like this, and it would connect, and then they would actually go in, and it would work much better. So even at a high speed, they could still connect and disconnect, and go on like that. So just moving speeds, first gear being again, and just like that. And now this thing right here is the warm gear. This is connected to your speedometer. So your speedometer basically giving you the output that you would get from the first gear. Because from the first gear you wouldn't be getting very high speeds, you just get a high torque. So meaning it doesn't matter how fast you spin this would spin much slower. That's how you would measure your speeds. And that's all. That's how basically a manual transmission works from 1 to 5 gears. Now it does get complicated when you have other gears, etc. But yeah, that's about it.